Carnage faces off with Agent Venom and the Scorn and hybrid symbiotes in the epic conclusion of Carnage USA. What's up guys, Roman from R&S Entertainment here, and welcome to another episode of Comic History, the weekly video series where I retell, explain, and give context to the iconic storylines, origins, and events in the world of comics. In today's video, we're going to be concluding our three-part series on Carnage USA, the ridiculous culmination of Carnage's return to Marvel Comics after being killed off by the Sentry 8 years prior. Carnage returns to Marvel in the 5-part Carnage Family Feud miniseries, which I've covered in previous episodes of Comic History, and then directly leads into Carnage USA by the same creative team of Zeb Wells and Clayton Crane. Carnage USA features some great artwork, over-the-top Carnage mayhem, and multiple symbiote characters including the hybrid symbiotes Phage, Agony, Riot, and Lasher, the symbiote daughter of Carnage, Scorn, and Agent Venom in his first face-to-face confrontation with the evil of Cletus Kasady. If you want to see all of the story up to this point, check out my 3-part video series on the return of Carnage, and the last 2 weeks' episodes, Carnage Bonds to the Avengers and Carnage vs. Scorn and Hybrid, for the first 2 parts of Carnage USA. Our story picks up right where Part 2 left off with the Mercury team, which consists of 4 of the 5 Life Foundation symbiotes from Venom Lethal Protector, who had been put in a nearly comatose state and trained by a special ops team to help them perform specific abilities. Fighting through hordes of Carnage-controlled townspeople in Doton, Colorado, making their way to their target, Cletus Kasady, with the knowledge that the United States military is planning to napalm the entire town if they fail. Cletus eventually gets annoyed enough to confront the symbiotes himself, storming out of the bar with the symbiote-controlled Avengers saying, "Hey kids, get off my lawn." Phage immediately fires a sniper bullet at Cletus's head, but the Carnage thing blocks it and Carnage, Cap, and Wolverine charge in to kill them, leading the host of Lasher to scream into his communicator for Scorn to get into the fight. In the Rousby meatpacking plant, Tanis Neves ignores the Mercury team's cries for help, with the Scorn symbiote having used its unique physiology and relation to technology to spread throughout the warehouse, reforming all of the materials into a gigantic sonic chamber. As the Mercury team begins to be overwhelmed by the Carnage Avengers, Spider-Man rallies the remaining population of Doverton, who rush to stop Carnage with rifles and Molotov cocktails. Local Sheriff Eric Morrill runs through the streets shouting for his wife Hannah, who along with his child and newborn baby had been about to be murdered by Carnage before the fight. Carnage fights with Spider-Man while still using the symbiote to choke out Eric's wife Hannah, and when Spider-Man is about to be impaled by Cletus, he's suddenly hit in the back by a sonic grenade launcher, falling forward as Agent Venom kneels in front of Spider-Man, who at this point in the comics had never seen him before. Spider-Man takes a look at the costume and immediately says that it looks like the Punisher started dressing up like him, and Venom reloads while reassuring Spider-Man that he's a friend. Venom shoots Carnage with 2 additional sonic grenades, loosening Carnage's hold on the Avengers and the townspeople as Venom headbutts him over and over, bashing the symbiote off of Cletus's face and shoving a pistol into his mouth, preparing to execute him on the spot. Spider-Man screams at Venom to stop, that no one else dies here, and Cletus says too slow with the pistol still in his mouth as the Carnage thing punches Venom away from him. Venom and Cletus are suddenly bowled over by an altered mech vehicle created by Scorn, who says that Cletus is the puppet master, and she was about to cut his strings. Tanis dumps Carnage and Venom into the sonic chamber she had constructed within the meatpacking plant, blasting both of their symbiotes off of them and severing Cletus's control over the Avengers and the townspeople completely. With their symbiotes having fled into the Doverton Hills, Cletus stands over Flash with a shard of glass, laughing at him for having no legs and preparing to murder him. Without the Carnage symbiote to continue powering his own mechanical legs, Cletus then topples to the ground as well, giving Flash the chance to lunge forward with a meat cleaver, impaling Cletus's arm, which only causes him to laugh and bite Flash in the neck. Spider-Man and the Avengers stand outside the sonic chamber, briefly wondering if they had won, before seeing that the Venom and Carnage symbiotes had attached themselves to the escaped animals from the Rousby Zoo, with Venom bonding to a gorilla and Carnage using its expanded biomass to bond to all of the other animals. As Spider-Man and the Avengers fight off Carnage-covered monkeys, giraffes, zebras, and more, Cletus and Flash engage in a ridiculous battle between legless men, with Cletus swinging down from the meat hooks and impaling Flash with a cleaver, hoisting him up by the chains and preparing to kill him. As the Avengers are overwhelmed by the Carnage animals, the Thing yells out to find the Fantastic Four's Sonic Disruptor Rifle, which at this point Scorn has integrated fully into her symbiote and modified to increase its strength. Scorn carves through the Carnage symbiote with the rifle, while Lasher screams into his communicator that they had Carnage contained, and to only send the napalm to the designated area and not to murder everyone in the entire town. As the sun rises and the military approaches, they initially refuse to change the bombing based on Lasher's request, but quickly adhere to it when Captain America himself gets on the communicator and dresses down the general in charge. The Venom gorilla desperately tries to get back to Flash, and Spider-Man even helps it escape by kicking a Carnage lion off of it. The military drops their napalm directly on the cornered Carnage symbiote, destroying the majority of its biomass and sending the doppelganger running in terror. In the warehouse, Cletus prepares to carve out Flash's eyes, but is distracted by a gorilla looking at him, before turning around to see the Venom symbiote rejoin to Flash, who lifts Cletus up by the throat. Outside, Tanis Neves kneels down and scoops what seems to be a separate piece of the Carnage symbiote into a special container, telling it that things were about to get much worse, and dodging Spider-Man's question when he asks what she's doing. This is never expanded upon, and along with specific lines earlier in the book about Cletus not knowing why his symbiote wanted to expand its own biomass, seem to indicate that this was a plot thread being set up for the future that just never ended up materializing. With Cletus defeated and the Carnage symbiote contained, Doverton Sheriff Eric Morrill shouts that Cletus can't be allowed to live after what he's done, trying to shoot him but missing before Spider-Man hits him with his gun and tells him that he can't let himself stoop to Cletus's level. As Eric breaks down into tears, telling Spider-Man that he had 3 kids before Cletus showed up, including a daughter that Cletus had murdered off-panel. The book ends with a shot of Doverton as a scorched, burnt-out ruin, with everyone Carnage controlled no doubt traumatized for life, and tons of people dead. Cletus leans back in his cell and smiles, with the Avengers pointing out that this does not feel like a victory. And that is where we are wrapping up Carnage USA, a ridiculous, over-the-top Carnage clusterfuck with a ton of symbiote versus symbiote action, stark Carnage horror moments, and the overarching theme of Carnage being someone who pushes the superhero mantra, especially with Spider-Man, of never killing anyone. The ending points this out because Carnage, much like the Joker, who was initially the inspiration for the character, never really loses. Even if you capture him, he will eventually just escape and murder whoever he feels like murdering again. He's almost an inevitable force of chaos and evil, forcing characters to constantly try and find ways to stop him, from shooting him with a hope machine in Maximum Carnage, to freezing him in Cosmic Crystal in Silver Surfer Becomes Carnage, which I have covered in a previous episode of Comic History. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, make sure to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, and subscribe to RNS Entertainment and RNS Gaming for new content 6 times a week. Episode 3 of Skooma Dealer in Skyrim went up on the gaming channel today, and I'll be streaming Spider-Man PS4 over there tomorrow and every Tuesday, so make sure to subscribe over there and check out the new videos. Next week on Comic History, I will be covering the epic and classic X-Men storyline Days of Future Past, so make sure to come back and check that out as well. That's it for today's video, guys, and I will see you all next time.